It is my pleasure to welcome you this afternoon on behalf of Capital Equity Massachusetts and Meher Foundation to the screening of Show Her the Money, produced by Catherine Gray. My name is Meena Bharath, and I'm the founder and chief strategy officer of Meher Foundation. We are an organization focused on enabling self reliance for individuals and communities facing structural barriers. At Meher, self reliance is not about individual grit alone. It is also about whether systems are designed to allow dignity, safety, and opportunity to take root. When access to capital is distorted by power and exclusion, self reliance is not a personal failure, it is a structural one. I was first introduced to the depth of inequity in the venture capital ecosystem by Dr. Geeta Swamy, who shared her own experiences as well as those of several other highly accomplished women. Experiences marked by profound power imbalances and by the absence of meaningful legislation or clear paths to recourse. I gave Dr. Swamy a lot of credit for the work that she has done up to this point in this area in raising awareness. Her account was deeply disturbing to me, and it prompted me to ask a broader question. If this is the reality for women of such accomplishment and standing, what does that mean for the Afghan women that Meher works with? Or for the young women on our youth advisory board, like the wonderful Dia Nigam, who's here today with us? What chance do they have within the systems we have built? I'm grateful to Catherine Gray and her colleagues for capturing these realities on film so that we may open our eyes to what is happening around us. The question before us is not whether these disparities exist, because the data and personal narratives make that clear. The question before us is why are our structures continuing to hold back women and people of color, and whether we have the collective will to shift our systems and hold those with significant power accountable. I hope you find the film thought provoking and that you're able to stay for the 30-minute panel discussion that will follow the screening. The screening is intended to inform and ground a discussion of the legislation currently before the Massachusetts legislature, legislation that seeks to address abuse of power in investment relationships and to advance fair and equitable access to capital. Welcome to Show Her the Money.
So we're going to spend the next 20 to 25 minutes speaking to leaders who are really pushing the envelope to bring women and minority leaders to a level playing field here in Massachusetts. So let me start by introducing our three panelists. The first one we know well after watching this award-winning documentary, Marian Leitner-Waldman. Please welcome. Thank you so much. Please have a seat. So Mariam is the co-founder and CEO of Archer Ruse Wines, one of the fastest growing wine companies in the United States, dedicated to bringing sustainably produced high-quality wines to consumers in accessible alternative packaging formats, such as cans. She co-founded Archer Ruse in 2015 with the goal of offering affordable luxury by partnering with world-class winemakers across regions such as Argentina, Chile, France, and Italy, uniting them under a single values-driven brand that emphasizes quality, transparency, and sustainability. Her accomplishments include becoming the wine of choice on JetBlue, which I just had on my flight back, amazing, and is in many well-known stores across the country. Welcome, Marian.
It's great to be here.
Our next panelist is Ed Gaskin. Please join us. As he's coming up, I will introduce him. Ed is the executive director of Greater Grove Hall Main Streets, a district that covers 18,000 people in one of the poorest neighborhoods in Boston. Thank you. He works to transform the Grove Hall by working across 4 sectors: public, private, nonprofit, and philanthropic. He graduated as Matron Trust Fellow, the school's highest honor from MIT's Sloan School of Management. He has also published over 200 articles across various publications, including his recent publication on market failure, Why Black-Founded STEM-Based Startups Thrive in Some Cities and Not Others. And we'll learn more about that shortly. Welcome, Ed. And last but not least, Dr. Felicia Newhouse. Welcome. Felicia is the founder of AI-Powered Women, a global leadership platform convening women leaders, technologists, policymakers, and educators to advance practical AI fluency and human-centered leadership. Her work includes spearheading AI-Powered Women's flagship annual conference at MIT, a year-round learning academy for applied AI upskilling, and emerging certification pathways focused on responsible innovation. Drawing on her career as a product leader in the tech startup ecosystem and her research on women entrepreneurs and transformational learning, she works with organizations and leadership teams on the human transformation side of digital change, ensuring an AI contributes to workforce resilience. Welcome. Thank you all for being here today. So let's get right into our questions, and I'd like to start with Marian. Show Her the Money highlights how credibility doesn't always translate into capital for women founders. Even with Archer Roos's achievements, as well as yourself being named a top 10 entrepreneur of the year by Boston Harbor Angels, what barriers have you still encountered when raising venture capital, or do you now too? And what does that look like?
Thank you so much. Can everybody hear me? I'm loud as well. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
So thank you so much for being here today and on such an esteemed panel. Like hearing your bios, it's all I do is hawk canned wine for a living. So it's a real honor to be here. Just since we filmed Archer Roos, this documentary, it really has been an incredible few years for Archer Roos. So not only did we win the JetBlue contract, which we're now entering our 4th year, we also won Princess Cruises. We're one of the only wine by the glass available there. We're in more than 150 stadiums across the country. We're in Kroger, we're in Targets, we're in Sprouts, we're launching in Wegmans and Specs and Buc-ee's. And we're also in James Beard Award-winning restaurants. And to me, one of the most exciting things, too, is that we've developed a big portfolio of IP around around canning wine, which is fundamental to us because sustainability and moderation are these like twin virtues that really drove the development of Archer Roos. And this will really help us to bring that to the industry at scale. And despite kind of all of that, raising our Series B has been one of the biggest challenges of my life. Constellation Brands, which was a Fortune 100 company, led our Series A. It was a massive industry validation, and I truly believed that it would make everything else kind of smooth sailing. Like all my job was to grow the company. And every year since, we've grown the company high double digits. Last year, we beat the market by 50%. And we have hit milestones that, I look and see kind of my peers are easily raising tens of millions of dollars, and it's a struggle for me. And what I've found is it's the dynamic that often still comes in the room, which is, I get more questions about why I will fail than what do I need to succeed. The thing is that, having a strategic who's invested would be a massive de-risking, be seen as a massive de-risk for other founders. And for us, it's like, oh, well, how, like I spend a lot of time then answering questions about how that might limit their upside. And so there's just a true negative mindset that comes into this. And that just makes the due diligence process, I mean, I've seen that it's not just me. This is like studies have shown that even women who successfully raised Series A like it's something like only 10% of those will successfully raise a Series B. And that's largely because Series Bs are that much larger. And Series A, women who receive Series A funding tend to get it from newer funds who have the lesser capacity to follow on. So you're going out and creating a new pipeline. But also that issue around the unconscious bias, like that negativity bias, on average, women undergo 3 times as long due diligence processes, which means that like if typically a beverage startup should expect like a 3-month raise from start to finish, we should anticipate 9 months. And so if you're raising around where like you are, it's only 12 months of runway or 24 months of runway, you have that less time to even hit milestones because you're already outselling your business. So it creates, it's not to say that it is impossible, but it definitely stacks the deck against you.
I've heard this before, this idea of prevention versus promotion questions. Men get all the promotion questions, women get all the prevention questions. And despite all your traction, it's almost like you're having to prove yourself over again. It's disappointing. Thank you for that transparency. Ed, the next question is for you.
Oh my. I just wanted her to talk more.
You've shown us in your research that Black-founded STEM-based startups are held back not just by pipeline issues or individual biases, but by a deeper market failure in how talent and capital are allocated. Could you expand on what you mean by that?
Yeah, so to explain the research, so when you hear things like 1% of the capital goes to Black firms or 2% to women-owned firms, what I did is I looked at 70 cities because I felt that the 1%, 2% was just a rounding. And I wanted to know what it was exactly city by city to figure out if some cities were doing better than others, we could figure out what those cities were doing. And then we looked at 42 different variables to see if any of those were drivers. And at the end of the day, I was puzzled as to why an area like this, let's say the Boston-Cambridge area, which is very high in terms of venture capital money, like 1/3 of the nation's venture capital money is here, and it's a technology cluster, why Black-founded companies were being outperformed in smaller metros like Memphis and Nashville or whatever. And what it turns out is that capacity, like the capacity in a region to do something like invest, is different than the intentionality to do it. And so some of the smaller markets were intentional about creating Black founders, which is why they were outproducing a place like this area here. And I also said, as I was looking this way, I did this after you sort of invited me. I said, I wonder if all these patterns are the same for women founders. And I'm almost certain that it is. In other words, just because there's money here and there's investors here, women probably don't fare any better here than they would other places.
Fascinating. And it sounds like this is not a pipeline issue. There's many women founders. There's many STEM-based Black women founders in this area. It's the intention behind the capital access.
Yes. So in terms of, have you actually designed the market for success? So obviously in microeconomics, you'd say eventually the market will self-correct. But for those cities or municipalities or areas where this is important to them, they can actually design it to succeed.
Fascinating. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Felicia, question for you. I know you and I have shared some very meaningful conversations. Yeah. And one of the things that you have said, which really resonated with me, is that women often build ethical, human-centered AI differently, and that this can actually make funding harder. What does that look like in practice, and what does it mean for innovation?
Yeah, absolutely. And for anyone that doesn't know about AI-powered women or the conferences we run, in just a year ago, January last year, we've grown into one of the largest convenings of women and AI together in one room, talking about AI, talking about responsible AI. So
Can I just clap?
Oh, thank you.
Over 1,000 people came in. It was amazing.
And so I'm not a venture capitalist, but my background is helping start, grow, technology businesses. My PhD research, I spent 8 years studying all different kinds of women entrepreneurs and what really holds them back from building businesses sustainably. And so this conference came from a very, personal lived experiences. And we really have, I think, a view of the breadth of the market in Massachusetts right now and what's happening with women entrepreneurs. We bring women together in our AI lab that are women entrepreneurs that are launching AI-focused businesses. They could be building new AI models. They could have AI-powered businesses. And a lot of businesses now are requiring AI in all different capacities. And what we're seeing, even in our own AI lab and through the women that we collaborate with that are entrepreneurs, 80% of the women are building socially impactful businesses. And that's out in the research too, that those businesses that are built by women tend to have a social impact component. And so what I see is, I'm thinking of these women, they're friends or colleagues, I care about them deeply. And they call me crying and they're just like, I'm trying so hard. I'm doing everything I can. And they are oftentimes much more focused on the humans they're serving than the men. And this is also backed by the research. I'm thinking of one particular woman, she built a perimenopause app, which, half the population, is going to deal with at some point in their life. The other half might want to pretend it doesn't exist. And these are businesses that she's painstakingly creating these AI models around the users and thinking about their pain points. She's lived the experience herself. And she is in a double bind where not only are the male investors not understanding her problem and her end users, she also has a B2B model that she was trying to work out where the doctors are mainly men as well. So it's a double-edged sword. So she ended up having to go back to the drawing board and essentially do a bottom-up approach where she has to get the consumers on board, where she now has a wild following of consumers that's growing and showing traction, but she still can't get that funding she needs. So there's examples like that where a lot of these women-led businesses are not only socially impactful, they're focused on women. And so these venture capitalists that are mainly men, they don't understand. They invest in people that look like them, act like them in interest areas that align with their interests. And so when it comes to AI, one of the biggest dangers I see is a world being created because of the trajectory that AI is moving so quickly and shaping the landscape so quickly, is we're going to have, builders, model makers, algorithms, products, services, and an entire world of future knowledge as we know it, that is being shaped mainly by white men. It's dangerous. It's not only dangerous to our ecosystems, it's dangerous to our children, and it's leaving a lot of money and opportunity on the table as well, which they pointed out in the movie. Women do tend to grow more profitable businesses. And when it comes to AI businesses, there's a world where if we leave women out, there's a very dangerous future for us ahead, where these businesses are being shaped and so are the models around them. So it's really a technological trajectory problem and not just, we invest in women as charity. This is the future of our world.
Wow, that's amazing. And absolutely, I can totally resonate with this. The power that women bring into the human-centered aspect of AI is so real and so needed in this world. I found myself in some rooms where I've had to downplay the human-centered aspect of what we're building, and it's not right. I shouldn't be doing it, but I felt that I've had to downplay it.
I'll just add one more thing. We shouldn't have to apologize for caring for people because these are the businesses our world needs, and they're profitable.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I'll say is the research shows that the investors discount social impact type things. Mm-hmm. So they're skeptical that you're going to be as profitable because of that human interest. And it's absolutely clear that when you have a group of men and they hear a product that's designed specifically for women, then they might even be too embarrassed to ask about what it does, how it works. And if they ask their wife, that's a different issue, but they won't invest versus something that they do know. And so you have like two things going against you in your situation.
Thank you. So now I'd like to ask a question, the same question to all of you, and we can start with Felicia. How do you see these two Massachusetts bills reshaping the entrepreneurial landscape for women, minority founders, and the broader Massachusetts ecosystem?
Yeah, I think these two bills are really important. I mean, the first bill that's really shaping the equitable funding is important for all the reasons I listed. I mean, I come from an AI angle on all of this, and I see just over and over again how the women are being held back from contributing to society, plain and simple. And again, that's a dangerous future for all of us. The second bill, which is focused on sexual harassment, I'm just going to share some personal stories here because I think it's important. So I've been the only woman on numerous technology teams, and also I've raised money twice for startups. And both of those funding rounds, 4 explicit times I can name where I was brought to coffee or to meet up to talk to an investor, an angel, about funding my business. And halfway through, I realized, oh my God, this guy's hitting on me. I'm on like his version of a date right now. Not only is that unbelievably insulting and dangerous, it's also a massive waste of my time as a founder. Our time is so critically small. At that point in my life, I was a single mom. I was raising my daughter, and I was very focused on doing only the things that could really turn a profit and have an impact on the customers I was serving. So those are very costly encounters as well. And then, of course, there's the emotional cost and a million other things that I don't need to explain to this room. So these are areas that are like the baseline of how women should be protected, just like they would be in a work environment. And so I think what's happening here at the end of the day, it's a power imbalance. You have a lot of, white male VCs with a bunch of money, and you have a lot of women who are, not looked at as doing something tangibly impactful. There's a lot of questions around, is this business really going to play out? Like you talked about the prevention. There's actually a great TED talk about the prevention and promotion.
There is.
And just asking how this is going to fail. And so I think women are kind of set up to fail in these environments. So I think we need to start asking ourselves, not beyond these bills, like how are we creating ecosystems and holding these people accountable, just like you would in the workplace? Because a lot of this happens behind closed doors. It's quiet. It's not monitored. It's just a bunch of rich dudes with money, right? And so that power imbalance, when you have women entrepreneurs that are getting desperate, and I can speak to the personal stories I've seen, women having to cash out 401ks, to get out credit cards. They're not able to buy groceries for their children because they put everything on the line with their business. And the research I did as well with my PhD research, I did a qualitative study that looked at women around the world, and the reasons they start businesses are not always sexy. It's not always because they have a bunch of wealth to do it. It's because they deeply care about the customers oftentimes. There's usually a personal lived experience associated with it. And even in a lot of cases, you'd be surprised that they're in survival situations where they have to feed their children. And right now we're seeing it with AI. Women are getting replaced at a much faster rate than men. They're desperate. They're desperate for jobs. They're desperate to be able to pay their bills, to provide for their families. This is the unsexy side of entrepreneurship that not everybody talks about, and isn't even covered in a lot of the research. So I think these are the things when you have a bunch of desperate women that do have great business ideas as well, there's a massive power imbalance that's dangerous. So.
Thank you for that. Ed, over to you. Thoughts?
Well, just 2 things. One is, it's not pipeline, it's not capacity, it's not shortage of women, it's not talent, it's not good ideas. It looks like, as the research shows, that it's your social network. And so because you don't have the same ability to get a warm introduction, or that's actually one of your colleagues that's doing the funding, you're held back. So that's your business plan or whatever is being reviewed by some junior analyst someplace who may or may not have an interest in actually getting that far. So just the social network, social dynamics is the first thing. And on the second one about the sexual harassment, I remember explicitly one of my colleagues, they did like their pitch, and then one of the investors said, "Let's go out for coffee," da 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 da. And then it was clear, she said, he had no interest in what I was doing. He just wanted to go out with me.
Thank you. Marian.
Well, both of my fellow panelists have really done such a great job of kind of articulating these points, but if I could just add my 2 cents to kind of reinforce it. One is that I have also had personal experiences of having, this power dynamic place me in a position of vulnerability. And this was even in cases where they knew I was married. In one of the cases, I was even pregnant, and it was very, and it wasn't subtle. And the thing that I would sort of leave you all with is that the legislation is an important first step. What it does is create a foundation. And then we have to think about how we create, to your point, the ecosystem, because legislation doesn't change minds. We know that. Ecosystem does. It's a carrot and a stick. And so those two things are really important in order to create an environment where everybody can thrive. But the reality is that Warren Buffett always loves to say, why would you imprison or hold back half of the population of the world? The economic potential of unleashing that half of the population is massive. And what it'll do is it's not going to diminish a pie. It will grow the pie for everybody. But it has to come, we have to think about this in a way also that the warm introduction piece is key. Networks exist for a reason. And it's not just about getting that warm introduction, it's that inherent trust. So when we talk about things about how do you become in a position where you're promoted versus prevented, that's because somebody's already opened the door and said this person can be trusted. So how do you transfer that piece? And that's about creating a multi-layered approach, and this legislation is an important first step.
Can you just add one point?
Yes.
I think looking at this from the LP perspective, from the public policy perspective, people always forget that a very large percentage, probably the majority of the funding for a lot of venture capital and private equity funds actually come from public institutions.
Pensions.
Exactly. Mass Prim in our state, for instance. And in the absence, and I had exactly this experience when we tried to convince UCOP, which is the University of California, public institution, their CIO, to put in place, when he was making investments of government money, public money into venture capital fund, put in a simple due diligence check to make sure that the people were not harassing entrepreneurs, which is kind of what the legislation hopes to do. And his answer was the reason he couldn't do it is there was no law saying it wasn't illegal. One of the biggest impacts of putting in this legislation isn't just that it puts in a disincentive, but it will change the way we invest government money because it makes something unlawful.
You need a carrot and a stick.
Thank you for that. And thank you to all the panelists. Your insights have been so powerful. I think we may have some time for some questions, but I would like to end it with a call to action first. These panelists and the documentary, Show Her the Money, make one thing unmistakably clear. The gap is just not about talent. It's about access, accountability, and who gets to make the decisions. Now imagine an economy here in Massachusetts where women and minority founders aren't the exception, but are the expected participants, where transparency builds trust, protections level the field, and capital flows to the best ideas, no matter who holds them. That's how we unlock more innovation, more jobs, and more shared prosperity across the Commonwealth. Now, these bills before us give us a real chance to move in that direction. So here's the call to action. We've circulated a bunch of flyers. You should have one on your chair. If you could please scan it or take it with you, pick it up. It walks you through step by step how you can support these bills, including sending letters to the co-chairs of Ways and Means. The entire process will take less than 5 minutes. Your voice matters. Let's help Massachusetts lead, not just in innovation, but in opportunity, equity, and growth. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. And thank you to the panelists.